Hello there, and welcome to a new episode of The Power of Surrender with Hugh, where every day we take a card from this deck, The Power of Surrender, by Dr Judith Orloff, and we discuss it to give you some inspiration and food for thought in these challenging times we're living in. Today's card is fascinating: Surrender to your soul's path. I guess we're getting into fate and destiny right here and going with the flow as we've been talking about in previous episodes. Let me tell you what the card says here. Your life's journey has been perfectly designed for your soul's growth. Embrace every lesson and every moment. So I'm going to take this in two different parts here and two different main things to think about. But the first part, where it says your life's journey has been perfectly designed for your soul's growth. Now, some people believe that before we come into this lifetime, that we decide we want to come into this lifetime and face the challenges that are going in our life. And certainly if you think about it like that, and that's something that you believe in, then this card would make absolutely perfect sense when it says that. But for people who don't necessarily believe, to say something like your life's journey has been perfectly designed for your soul's growth, what I would say to you is, even if you don't believe that idea, I think where it becomes interesting, if you start thinking about how every experience that we go through, both positive and negative, we have a choice whether we learn from that experience and grow from it, or whether it beats us down or defeats us. And there's some terrible things that can happen to people in life, but if you can have the strength to change your perspective on no matter what occurs to you in life, then everything that occurs, good and bad, becomes growth for your soul. What I've discovered and had my perspective changed by Abraham Hicks. If you're not familiar with Abraham Hicks, it's Google it, go to YouTube, you'll find a bunch of videos by Abraham Hicks. One of the things that I learned from Abraham was that the contrast when things are not going well sometimes there's a genius in it, because when things go wrong, you're like, oh, I don't want this, and it really, really clearly helps you define what you want and what you don't want. And you see often when people sometimes get sick, or they have a health scare, or they have an accident of some kind, it can be utterly transformative to their perspective. It gives them a whole new appreciation, mindset, and a different perspective on things that can, like as I said, can be life-changing. Now, this leads on to the second part of the card, where it says, embrace every lesson and every moment. When people say things like, you've got to embrace every moment because, you don't know what, when your time is going to come, that can seem a little bit melodramatic, but it's very true. If you were to take the perspective, and you have to kind of catch yourself with this, but if you were to, like, just be in a simple moment, you're there with your friends and you're having a laugh, and it's not anything significant or life changing, but it's some of the simple little moments that we sometimes don't realize how important they are at that time, and it's having that perspective of looking at your life and going, this is a beautiful moment right now, I'm going to really appreciate this moment here. And then it's into the larger events that are happening as well. Again, we keep coming back to this whole thing of perspective. We keep coming back to this whole idea of appreciation mindset, and literally surrendering to the universe, to your higher power. Again, not something that is easy to do for everyone, but I'm going to read this one more time here in conclusion, just to kind of go through the thoughts here one more time with you. Your life's journey has been perfectly designed for your soul's growth. So if you believe that we've come here with a purpose and we've chosen to be here, then that makes perfect sense. As I said, even if you don't believe that, I believe that everything that happens to us in our life is part of it. We have a choice to grow from it and move forward, or we can let it defeat us. It's completely up to us and our perspective on it. And no matter how difficult things are. And then it goes on to say, embrace every lesson and every moment. And as I was saying to you, I've learned from Abraham Hicks that it is the contrast that sometimes can be the genius, and learning to appreciate everything that occurs to us, and learning to appreciate every moment, every day that we have on this beautiful planet is again, you change that perspective. It changes your whole life experience, because you start to go with the flow, you start to be in appreciation, you're broadcasting at a higher and a more positive frequency, which attracts other things of that frequency to you. Again, this is why I love this card deck, because it always takes us back home to very, very important things about just surrendering to the wonder that is this planet. And I know in these times we're living in with COVID and political unrest, I know that it can be difficult to see the beauty that's all around us in our planet and in one another, and how we're all connected to one another. But I hope this has given you inspiration and food for thought, and a reminder that we are all one and connected. And it's by surrendering to your things like this, to your soul's path, that life can become an entirely different experience. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Go check out my daily cards on with Hugh on Instagram at Hugh Readings. Until tomorrow, my friends, have a wonderful one. Boom.